So today we're going to be talking about class enrollment, putting students into classes, basically how that works, how to handle the pricing for different classes, how to deal with changing an enrollment for a student, dropping an enrollment for a student, and how that affects charges and other transactions posted to the parent or customer's account. So let's start off with the basics. I'm going to pull up my class listing. And today we're going to be using swim classes as an example. But this could apply just as easily to dance classes, gymnastics, K-12, after-school programs, just about anything. I've got a dive clinic class which meets on a Wednesday. I'm going to go ahead and select that class. That takes me to my class maintenance page. And we can see I've got a variety of different pricing models on this class. I wanted to make this a little more interesting so we had more pricing options to look at and do examples with. So I've got a mixture of monthly, per class rates, and total rates for this class. And as you remember, monthly rates are fixed rates, meaning it's going to post that amount each and every month when you run a post-tuition billing cycle. Per class rates are calculated based on the number of days that the class occurs based on its day of the week and the calendar month that we're billing for. And then total tuition types are specific to billing the entire class cost up front at the time of enrollment. And the three of those together give you a lot of flexibility for how you want to price your classes, whether you're pricing your month-to-month year-round classes, session-based classes with total tuition, or calculated tuition with per class for monthly classes or short-term classes. Let's jump in and do an enrollment. So I'm going to go over to my class menu on the left. That's our purple menu over here. And I'm going to come down to the enrollment section and I'm going to go ahead and click on Enroll Students. Alright, so here's my list of students. Let's expand this out a little bit more to 20 per page. I'm going to save my display settings so I can see more. And we're going to go ahead and choose one of our students. I'm going to choose the student whose last name is, let's see here, let's just pick a sibling pair here, which would be nice. Let's pick someone with my name. Excellent. There we are. So we see the two Kerber children out there, Easton and Landon. I'm going to start with Easton, and we're going to enroll Easton in this class. I'm going to click on Enroll. I can also click on Register, or if I needed to put somebody directly into a wait list. Those are my three actions. I'm not registering right now, so I'm going to just skip registering that student. I'm going to put them right into the class. So when I click on Enroll, I get our Enrolling Class window. And this has a lot of information, so let's just break it down. At the very top, we've got the student's information, including their birth date and age. The next section shows class information, so lots of different bits of information condensed down so I can see everything about the class that I'm about to put this child in. And then we've got the important section, which is the blue and pink areas where we're going to set the rate for the class, and we're going to post the first month's tuition or total tuition in the case of a full tuition class. Now you'll notice ClassJuggler's also told us that this class is active and in progress. You'll see that in the red text just to the upper left of the blue tuition rate section. And that's just reminding me that this class is already going. So if I'm putting a student in here, they may have missed some of the initial classes, which could give me the opportunity to prorate their first month's tuition. So you'll see ClassJuggler's already set the enrollment date to today. I have my tuition option drop down. And again, I can pick from any of those predefined tuition rates that I set up in the table. I have a field over here where it shows the current rate based on the tuition option I've selected, in this case $40 monthly. So I see $40 here per month. And because this class has already started, we see a second row in the blue tuition section that says this class is in progress. You have the option to prorate the tuition for the remaining classes this month. And then I'm presented with a yes, no. Now before we do anything with that, let's talk about the pink row down here. This is the actual charge row. And this is basically telling us it's going to create a tuition fee with today's date for the month of September. That's the month we're currently in, for the rate we chose from the drop-down, which is $40 per month. So that's essentially saying I'm going to bill this parent the full amount for this dive class for Easton. Now because this class has started, I can say, sure, ClassJuggler, tell me what the prorated amount would be based on the number of classes that Easton's missed. Now if I click on yes, you'll notice it's changed the amount down here to $10 from the original $40. So how is that being calculated? Well, the nice thing is ClassJuggler is going to tell us that. If we look right underneath that description in the second blue row where the prorate tuition is, it's going to say I'm going to deduct $30 for 3 missed classes. Total classes 4 at $10 per class. So essentially what ClassJuggler's done is it's looked at the month of September calendar. It's decided that there are 4 Wednesdays in that month, and it's going to divide the tuition by 4, or $10. And then it looks to see where today's date is, where we're putting him in the class, and it determines that 3 of those classes have already passed based on the calendar. And that's great. That just saved me a lot of trouble of trying to figure this out and look at a calendar and decide what the prorated tuition amount is. So I can just go ahead and accept that, go ahead and complete that enrollment. So I've now put Easton in the class. There's my successful message up here in the upper right of my gray information bar. He was successfully enrolled into Dive Clinic. Let's do another enrollment from the same family, and then we can talk about discounts and so forth. So I just did a quick search for the last name, Kerber, and there's Landon Kerber. Notice it doesn't pull up Easton again. Why? Because he's already enrolled in the class. So it doesn't waste my time showing me records that are inappropriate for this enrollment. I'm going to go ahead and click on my enroll action again, and it's going to bring up that same enrollment window. Now I see that we're working with Landon. Again, ClassJuggler knows that this class is active and in progress. Now the thing I like to do when I'm doing enrollments is I always look down in the lower right hand corner of my enrollment window to that little yellow box. And what this box is designed to do is tell you more information about the family that's enrolling. In this case, I can at a glance see enrollment for all dates. This particular student, Landon, has no other classes, so it says student none. But other students in the same family are enrolled in one class. So right there I know I can go ahead and choose my monthly sibling discount of $35. Notice as soon as I select that, it changes the class tuition field as well as the amounts in the amount column. And again, if I want to do the prorated tuition, I can click on yes. And now ClassJuggler's calculated that at $8.75 per class based on the number of missed classes. And let's go ahead and complete that enrollment. So now we've just generated, or we've just enrolled 2 students from the same family and put them in this class. And we've also created some tuition charges. Let's take a quick look at those tuition charges before we do some more enrollment examples. I'm going to go to my customer listing so I can pull up that family. And I'm going to search for that last name. K-O-E-R is fine. And there we are, Pam Kerber. And I'm going to select that record. I can see Easton and Landon down here as the children in the family. You can also see they're now both enrolled in one active class. And Easton has not been enrolled before, but Landon has been in 3 other classes that have expired. Now let's go down to the customer transaction screen under our billing and invoices section on our left side menu. And on here we can see all of the last 7 months of activity. You'll notice I've set my filter up at the top just to show me the last 7 months. I could easily set that just to the last 30 days or 60 days for recent history. Save my display settings so that ClassJuggler remembers that's how I like to see that each and every time I revisit this page. So here's those 2 charges we just generated. So I get my date and time. I can also hover over those fields. That'll show me information about the transaction and who generated it. And then I've got the full details of each of those tuitions that were billed to this parent's account. So I see September 2016 tuition. I see a little asterisk after that. I'll tell you what that means here in a second. Then the first name of the child, a hyphen, and the name of the class that they're enrolled in. And then we've got our charge amount column with the amount that was billed and our running balance. So now we see the customer has a total balance due of $18.75 for those charges for September, those prorated classes that we put the students in. Now, you remember when we did the proration on those classes, it did some calculations. Sometimes you forget how that came about, and you may come back to a parent's account, look at these charges and go, why the heck did I bill $8.75 for this class? Well, if you hover over the description column of these charges, you'll notice there's a little green dog ear in the corner of those fields telling you that ClassJuggler has more information it can show you. Anytime you see that little green little hash in the corner, right where my cursor finger is pointing, that tells you that there's more information. Now, when I hover over here, this tells me exactly what was going on when I created this charge. Well, it's telling me it was a monthly tuition. The original rate for the class was $35. The rate stayed at $35, meaning I didn't manually override it in the blue area. It billed for a single class, and then it gives you some statistics saying there were 4 total classes in the month, none were skipped, 3 were prorated, and then the per class calculated rate was $8.75. Skip represents things like close dates on your calendar. So it's really great to be able to see how these were calculated and remind yourself, oh, that's valid, that was a prorated class, it wasn't just somebody on our team making a mistake and putting in the wrong amount. Let's go back to our same class and do an enrollment using one of the other payment types. So I'm going to choose my Dive Clinic again. I'm going to go to my Enroll Student screen. And let's find another family that we can bill some tuition to. I'm going to search for BO, and here is, or BOE, let's do that. Here's Bowie. And let's choose one of the students in this family. I'm going to choose HUD. Again, we get our enrollment screen. Now this time I'm going to choose a per class rate of $10. So you'll see ClassJuggler puts that our tuition rate is now going to be $10 per class. But when we look at our tuition charge, or our tuition row, you'll notice it says $40. Well, why is that? Well, it's already figured out that there are 4 Wednesdays in the month of September, and since it's a per class rate, it's a calculated rate, so that total is now $40. But again, because this class has started, I may want to prorate that tuition. If I do, that's actually going to set it just to the single class price, which again is $10 per class. In this case, I'm going to say let's not prorate this, just for this example. And we'll go ahead and complete this enrollment. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the sibling. Let's get Grayson. Actually, let's do Jameson. And again, looking down in the lower right-hand corner, I see my enrollments on all dates, other students 1, and I'm going to go ahead and choose that sibling per class discount rate of $8.50. Again, ClassJuggler calculates that out to be $34 total for the month. That's the discounted rate for this sibling, and I'll go ahead and complete that enrollment. Boom. So now we've got some charges again out for the Bowie family. Let's take a quick look at those. Go to my customers menu, quick search for Bowie, and there's Kristen. I'm going to use my shortcut by holding down my shift key before I click on her name, which takes me right to the transactions page. And again, here's our charges. $40 for HUD and $34 for Jameson. And again, we can hover over those to see how it was calculated, so we know exactly what's going on with these calculations. Now, before I mention that asterisk that you see after the word tuition, that's a special indicator that ClassJuggler puts on a tuition charge for the initial enrollment charge created. So that's a visual indicator to me when I'm looking at someone's account that that charge was generated at the point the student was enrolled in the class, generally for that first month of tuition. If I don't see the asterisk, for example, October 2016 tuition, after I've run my October billing cycle, it won't include that asterisk. It'll just have October 2016 tuition, colon, student's name, hyphen, and the class name. And that's how it does moving forward. And this is just a nice way to visually say this is the start of that enrollment and the first charge for those students in those classes. Let's do a third example of this class where we enroll a student in at full tuition rate. So I'm going to go back to my enrolled students. I'm going to pick another family. This time we're going to go to, oh, we have too many Smiths. Let's use Smizek. So we're going to choose Griffin. Now this is a really good example as well. Now notice ClassJuggler has shown a note to us just under the class information saying this child is actually either inactive or a prospect, in this case inactive. And if we put them in the class, it's going to change their status to active and also change the customer, the parent in this case, to active as well. So it handles doing a lot of things for us when we put someone in a class that's either in an inactive status or maybe it was a prospect that we had from an open house or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and choose the total rate. In this case, this family's decided to pay the entire tuition for this 3-month class up front. So we have our $120 total rate. Now again, remember this class has already started. Let's see how ClassJuggler handles the prorated tuition. I'm going to click yes, and you'll notice it's changed both the tuition section and the charge section. Well, that's a little different from when we're looking at monthly or per class pricing, because when we're billing the full rate, we don't charge the full tuition and then or we don't set the full tuition as the full amount and then charge a different amount. The rate and the amount is the same thing because we're doing it all at once. So ClassJuggler changes that tuition to $92.31 for us. And that makes it really easy. So let's go ahead and complete that enrollment. And then let's do the sibling. Oops. Spell that correctly. I think it was an I. There he is, Marley. So here's Marley, and we're going to put her in the class at the sibling discount. Again, I look down here, I see other students in the same family. One enrollment. I'm going to go ahead and choose that sibling discount. I'm also going to prorate the fee, which calculates out to $76.92. I can always override these rates too. That's something you can always do with ClassJuggler. So maybe I don't want it to be this odd amount. I just want it to be 76 even. I can just change that by overriding that amount, and that'll populate down through the charge row. And I'll go ahead and complete that enrollment. And let's now go look at this parent's account and see what those charges look like. So there's Kathleen. I'm going to shortcut to her transaction page by holding down the Shift key when I click on her name. And here's Griffin and Marley's charges. Again, I can always hover over these to see how they were calculated. For example, on Marley's, hers was calculated as an original rate of 100. The prorated amount was calculated as $76.92 for 10 total remaining classes, where 3 were prorated out. So I can see that it calculated it at $76.92, but we posted 76, meaning that an administrator, in this case myself, overrode that amount and put something different in. If we look at Griffin's, the original rate was 120, prorated at 92.31. The amount was 92.31, which tells us nobody made any changes to that calculated rate. Now if we went back to the particular class we're working with, and now I'm going to go to the View and Manage Enrollment screen. This is where we can look at all the students currently enrolled in this class. So here's the 6 students that I've enrolled in this class. Let's go back to one of them. Let's go to one of our monthlies. Let's say, for example, on Landon, even though he's at $35 a month, I actually meant that to be $30 a month. Well, I can go in here and make a correction to that enrollment so that when I bill October and bill November, it doesn't bill that $35 amount each time and I have to keep correcting it. I can change it so that moving forward in time, I can set the correct amount and get that enrollment rate correct. So we had set it at $35 a month. I want it to be $30 a month. Maybe this is just a one-time special deal for this student. Well, I don't have that in my table as an option. Well, no problem. I can still come over here and manually change that to $30 per month and then update that record, which then updates that rate. So now you'll see it's at $30 a month. Now, an important thing to remember here is just because I changed that student's rate has no effect over any existing tuition charges that have been posted to that customer's account. Well, why doesn't that happen? Well, think about it this way. Let's say this class has been running for a year. He's been billed $30 every year, or sorry, every month throughout that year. Then let's say we have a price increase starting in a particular month. I then change his rate from 30 to 35. Well, I don't want it to go back and change all those other charges to 35. I only want new charges generated when I run a billing cycle to be posted at that new rate. So when you make a change to someone's enrollment record, remember to always go back to the parent's account. Let's do that. This is for Kerber. And make any adjustments that you need to that enrollment amount. Now in this case, because I've changed it from 35 to 30, I really need to post a credit for some small amount for this class, for this student, probably $5 prorated, so it's going to be something like $1.25, I think. Well, just to be perfectly accurate on this account, I'm going to go ahead and input a credit. I'm going to choose tuition as the account I'm going to credit. I'm going to choose that class from my class list so that I can link that to this particular credit. And I'm going to say tuition credit, Dive Clinic. And just say it was an overcharge credit. So in this case now, I've got $1.25 that I'm going to credit back to this parent's account. And there's my adjustment. So pretty easy to do. Just always remember, when you adjust a tuition rate on a student's enrollment record, it does not affect existing transactions in the parent's account. Let's talk about dropping students from classes. If we go back to our class roster, and I'm going to choose my Dive Clinic. Let's go back to the View and Manage Enrollment screen where all the students who are in the class are listed. And here's everybody. Let's say that Marley down here decided that she does not want to take this class. So even though I've got her enrolled, let's say it's not even Wednesday yet, the parents got this on their account. I'm going to go ahead and hit my Edit Drop again. And in this case, when I get my enrollment screen, I'm not going to be modifying the enrollment. I just really want to drop her out of this class entirely. So I'm going to click on my Drop Action button down here. And ClassJuggler is going to ask me why. So Marley was a little intimidated by this class. Now when I hit my drop button, by default, it's also going to send an email to the instructor who's teaching this class, letting them know that a particular student has been dropped out of this class. And that's a great communication mechanism built into ClassJuggler to keep everybody informed. I'm going to uncheck this just for my demo so I don't get a lot of emails. And I'm going to click on Drop. It's going to ask me to confirm that. Yes, I am. And now she's been dropped from the class. I can always view drop students. You'll notice she still is appearing in my roster here, but the status has now changed to dropped. And again, because there's a little green dog ear indicator in the corner of that cell, I can hover over that to view the actual reason why she dropped out of the class. Now if I don't want to see drop students in my listing, I can always change the show filter here in the gray filters bar to just showing enrolled students only. Refresh my listing, and now I only see those 5 actively enrolled students. And let's go ahead and save our display settings so that's all we see every time we return to the screen. Now because we dropped Marley out of the class, again, it didn't get rid of the charge we had posted to the parents record, so I still need to correct that. And I'm going to look at drop students only. And that was for the Smizek family. I'll make it easy on myself. Again, I'll click on her last name. That'll take me to the student record, and then I can use the button that says Return to Customer to go to the parent. And now we'll go to her transaction page. And again, we still see that $76 charge there. Even though we dropped her from the class, it doesn't affect existing transactions. In this case, because the parent hasn't paid me yet, I can easily click on that transaction, open up the details window for it, and you'll notice we have a button here to void that out of their account. So let's void that transaction, and that'll allow us to get rid of that transaction, which lowers the balance due from this parent. If the parent had paid us, we'd still probably void that transaction. That might leave them with a credit balance that we would either issue a refund back to them or possibly carry that credit forward to additional months or future months that those students are enrolled in classes. So I'm going to go back to my Dive Clinic class one more time. And we're going to take again a look at all the students that are enrolled. So this is a little view of how class enrollment works, how to add students to classes, how that creates charges on the parent's record, how the proration tool works, how the different pricings of the class work for whether it's a monthly charge, a per class charge, or a full upfront total tuition charge, and also how to drop students out of a class and make adjustments to their tuition rates. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's webinar and you learned something or two about the ClassJuggler class enrollment system. Make sure to check out our other videos on our YouTube channel. Just do a search for ClassJuggler and you'll find a bevy of different videos, webinars, and training sessions all online for your use. Thanks for attending.